to come into compliance with this new policy. And then on the other hand, what you have is a similar statement saying that if there are any, say, complaints which have been brought by students or whoever against, say, a college or a university regarding reverse discrimination, essentially that the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Education will review that. So the colleges are really, and universities are really left with no option in this particular situation.
Mr. Hayden, what is your reading? Can you hear us there?
Yes, very well, thank you. I think Mr. Watkins gave a very accurate survey of what's gone on in the past 20 years. Basically, we've shifted from a program announced by the federal government to support and affirm the good instincts in people in the educational sector toward a more negative agenda, the first step of which we have just seen. In my view, I think that we are going to see more steps from the administration to curtail what we formerly knew as affirmative action and to engage in a disciplinary rather than a positive role on the part of the government vis-a-vis education.
Do you think it is appropriate to make a comparison between a designated scholarship and a set-aside program such as in Richmond, Virginia, on which Mr. Williams bases his legal judgment? In other words, he says that because set-aside programs have been ruled unconstitutional unless prior discrimination is proven, that the designated scholarships fall into the same category.
Well, I'm not a legal expert, but that strikes me as an artificial distinction, and I worry about that. As you may know, they are pursuing Oregon with the same line of reasoning, and I think this is an unfortunate line of reasoning.
What happens if this directive, Mr. Williams' directive, comes to fruition and universities and colleges are banned from making designated scholarships to blacks? Does this make a difference in the number of blacks who will be admitted to college?
Well, I think it would not make too much of a difference at the selective colleges such as the ones that we speak most about. There are more than adequate funds to support scholarship programs for all students, and there are more reasons than that of race alone that students are accepted. So I wouldn't think there would be too much change if the mandate is upheld. I do not, however, think that the ruling will be upheld in the courts.
Do you believe that all designated scholarships discriminate against people outside of the designated group? For example, all universities, or most universities that I know of, have set-asides or quotas for people who are going to play in the band, people who are going to play sports, people who are going to be in the ballet, to the children of alumni. One designated scholarship I read about was for someone who was Scottish and white male who lived in a certain state and so forth. Are we to outlaw all designated scholarships?
Well, I think that's the way I'd look on it, is that all universities are trying to gather the most diverse group of people that they can, and as such they set up admissions patterns to find and to identify these students and to accept them. But in many, many schools there are informal but widely recognized rules that prevent discrimination from one group to the next.
What is important about a university having a diversified student body? What is important about a university having blacks and Hispanics also as a part of its student body?
Well, I certainly think that students learn so much, one would think, more from one another than they do sometimes in the classroom. The lessons learned from association with diverse groups of people are enormously important as students move into the multicultural world of the 1990s and beyond the year 2000. I can't conceive of the colleges in this country not pushing for that recognition and for that kind of a program in the years to come, and the government being forced to oblige.
Mr. Watkins, is there a class of black students who, in your estimation, should not be eligible for race-designated scholarships? In other words, should all scholarships aimed at blacks be for blacks as a group, or should it be for, let's say, the more underprivileged group of blacks?
Not necessarily. There are two areas within the scholarship field. There is a set of scholarships which are based on need, and obviously the poor or economically disadvantaged minority students apply for those, and they're not in competition with other scholarships which are geared for, say, specifically diversity type situations.
So middle-class black students are not competing with underclass black students for scholarship money?
Not necessarily, no.
All right. We have a young man here who is a college student here in Dayton, at the University of Dayton, am I right?
Yes.
What do you think of this?
I think it's very unfair because, first of all, it seems like the people who are able to afford college are rich people or poor people. The middle class are left out, and if you take the rich people away, I mean, if you take the poor people away, you're only left with the rich, so that's a big gap right there.
Where do you fall in?
I'm probably in the lower part.
Did you need, you are going on to your master's degree, right?
I plan to attend grad school once I get out, and I'm wondering if it'll affect the minority fellowships or any minority scholarships available.
All right, let's ask Mr. Hayden.
I really don't think so, because as I said earlier, there are so many factors that are considered by a graduate school or a college in admitting a student. Race is only one of those factors. I do think, though, that a tremor has been sent throughout the educational community, and particularly in the minority community, by this kind of discussion in Washington. And I worry, as does Roger Watkins, about whether or not students will be, whether they will think about applying to college, much less graduate school. It's that kind of thing that we need to be concerned about. The expectations that students have at this age are very easily dashed by the decisions that Washington makes.
Now, Mr. Hayden, you've written a book or several books on this subject, have you not?
I did write a book called The Handbook of College Admissions, yes.
So, everybody tells me you know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they think that.
All right. I have a young lady here who is a student at a predominantly black college, Wilberforce University.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, do you see this having an impact on financial aid for black students at predominantly black colleges in the same way it will have an impact on black students at majority white colleges?
I just don't think so. As I said, I don't believe that the courts will support this. I don't think that sound public policy will support this kind of decision, and that it will be rolled back. And other things, however, will come to the fore that will be worrisome. But I think that people in the minority community should remain reassured that this society and the institutions such as the one I represent and countless others are committed to helping them gain access to higher education.
Well, both you and Mr. Watkins have stressed the point that this directive may not find its way into legal life, but it certainly means that somebody is trying to point us in that direction. And if this one doesn't go through, we should suspect, should we not, that people of Mr. Williams's philosophy and beliefs will have another directive out next week. In other words, it is a subject we can't walk away from because today it's not politically viable. We know it's not politically viable because President Bush and Mr. Sununu, his chief of staff, both publicly reversed Mr. Williams. But does this not mean that this is the direction or the point to the future? Mr. Watkins, what do you think?
I think what's happening is that the administration is continually chipping away at the gains of minorities, especially in the education area. I think what we have to do is be vigilant about this. I think the best we can hope for under the current administration is the status quo. I think any time that there is at least an inkling, the fact that scholarships or there isn't money for college education, that has a pronounced effect in the minority community, which is very, very different than what's happening in the majority community. They have been, but meaning essentially whites have had the opportunity of going on to college. They have been programmed since they were small to go on to college, and there's more advantages. what's happening in the minority community. As you can see that there is a higher enrollment in the military. There's because of the lack of education, and it starts at a very early age also, by meaning that if you don't have the money to support and good programs in elementary school as well as high school, then you're not tracking your blacks, so you're not tracking your minority students to go on to higher education in order to be competitive, and that's the key, in order to be competitive.
All right, Ms. Whitey, what do you think of this?
I think it's very unfair also. I think it's a ploy to discourage a lot of black students to continue on to college.
Why would anybody want to discourage any young person from going to college? I mean, we are educationally in this country, we are in great difficulty. The business sector has said that if it does not get trained blacks and Hispanics, it will not be able to compete with Germany and Japan and other industrialized countries. Why, in your mind, your opinion, because you are a young person, you are a student, why have you figured out anyone would not want you to finish college?
I'm wondering if they feel that I'm a threat or something. I can't think of any other reason other than just downright prejudiceness.
All right, Mr. Hayden, what do you think? Don't you find it rather ironic that under the Bush administration, that is classified as being more conservative than Mr. Bush's administration, that this very same ruling was not made? In other words, the law was the same, was it not, during the Reagan administration? The interpretation of it was more benign than the very, what is it, the strict constructionist edict that the so-called colorblind conservatives have?
That's correct. What you have is an ideological reaction here, an oversimplification of an enormously complex problem